everybody. Welcome back for today's community conversation. We have El Paso Police back here in the studio with us.
Yes, Sergeant Christina Mendoza with the Department of Financial Crime Unit is here to talk about elderly identity theft. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so tell us, what types of crimes are we specifically seeing when it comes to the elderly community?
The elderly community is falling victim to a lot of tech scams and a lot of phone scams where scammers are getting access to them and their financials through means of the technology.
Let's talk about that. Why do we feel that these scammers target the elderly community? What have you guys seen?
So we think that because the elderly community is a more trusting community and they're not really fully aware of all the capabilities of our technology now, they kind of just trust too much and give these people more information without verifying because they don't feel the need to verify someone that's calling them because the phone number is displayed. They just lived in a different generation, I think.
And are they being, obviously, is their money being taken? Is there a certain instance that you could maybe, that comes top of mind whenever you think of this and how someone was impacted?
So the biggest, more relatable story I have is a retired teacher from El Paso. She worked 30 years, retired, and was living her life at 78 years old. And she got a pop-up on her computer to call Microsoft. So she called Microsoft. They told her her computer was infected and her bank accounts had been compromised. And they convinced her to go and withdraw all her money from the banks because the scammers might be working at the bank. And she proceeded to take all this money and buy a ton of gift cards and put money into cryptocurrency machines, and she lost well over $210,000.
Yeah, and it happens way too often. I know I did a couple of stories, and maybe you can tell us if you work in conjunction with any of the other law enforcement agencies. I know I spoke with the FBI, the DEA, and people are getting scammed outside of the state with things that involve, they're calling them telling them that they're from El Paso, that the DEA is calling from El Paso. And I spoke to a gentleman out of Florida who also got scammed out of thousands of dollars from his retirement money. So do you guys work in conjunction with other agencies?
We do. We have a really good relationship with HSI. We also work with FBI and Secret Service, and we're trying to kind of collaborate our efforts into tracking these people down. Unfortunately, a lot of these funds end up in other accounts of people that are being scammed into thinking they're doing this for a job. So it's really hard to trace. It's really hard to get that money back.
And how big of a problem would you say this is in our area in particular? Is there an upward trend that we're seeing in regards to these specific crimes?
I am seeing an upward trend just in the last 2 years. I think it started with like in 2020 when everything kind of went computerized. There definitely has been an increase.
And so talk to us about the Fanatical Crime Unit or any other efforts that the department is taking to curb this trend.
So what we're doing as a unit at Financial Crimes is we're going out to do presentations to the banks because these people go to the bank to take out their money. So we think if we educate the first line person that can probably prevent it, that's like our starting point. But we're also doing presentations for different churches, different neighborhood watch programs, any opportunity we get to try to do the prevention part of it and educate people on how these crimes are happening.
The Financial Crime Unit, right? I think I said that wrong. The Financial Crime Unit is what it's called. Do you guys have information on that on the department's website?
I believe we do, but if not, you can call our department, our section at 915-212-4100, and I'll be glad to give you any kind of information that you need.
Okay. Perfect. And what are some of the signs that people should be on the lookout for when it comes to identity theft, scam, anything like that?
So unsolicited contact, if you're not reaching out to these companies and a company calls you, look out for unsolicited contact, an email, a phone call, a text message that you were not expecting, and somebody pressuring you to pay a specific way. Those are the main signs to look out for. If you can't confirm the identity of the other side, of the other party reaching you, it's likely a scam.
When someone is running the scam here locally, what are some of the charges that people can face?
They can face up to like theft, felony thefts are usually exploitation of elderly, financial abuse of elderly. There's a lot of.
Does that carry jail time?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. If we can find a perpetrator. Unfortunately, a lot of these scams that are happening, we're not seeing that they're local.
Wow, they're out of state, out of the country.
Out of the country,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Christina. Some very great insight, and people have probably learned a lot from this. So we really appreciate you being here with us today. After the break, we're going to hear from Sergeant Robert Gomez, who's going to be in the studio with us to answer some questions directly from our viewers that they asked and were curious about on Facebook.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We'll have that right after the break. Welcome back. Well, as we do here every Wednesday, we have the El Paso Police Department joining us, and Sergeant Robert Gomez is here to answer some of your viewer questions that we actually got from our Facebook account.
Absolutely. Let's get right to it. He is ready to go, Sergeant Gomez. Let's take a look at these. Our first question this morning is from Patricia Norris. Now, the question says, why is the police department short-staffed? Did they get defunded? Do criminals have more rights than victims?
Well, the police department is short-staffed. This has been going on for multiple years. The biggest decline was during COVID when academies got canceled, and it has really put us behind. The problem we have now is not academies, but fine qualified applicants. The pool of people wanting to be police officers has really gotten very shallow, and we're having trouble filling the academies now. So as long as that continues, we're going to be short, and it will affect our operations.
And something that you guys, and also the chief has also said, that you guys will not lower your standards when it comes to qualifications. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, you know, our standards, it's very, police officers have an enormous amount of responsibility and power, and it is very important that we get the most qualified applicant at the very beginning. So in order to not lower our standards, we've worked with other ways of maybe streamlining the academy, stuff like that, but the standards will remain the same. That has to remain the same in order to have the same quality of officer that we have now.
All right, our second question is from Rom Benjamin, and he's asking multiple questions here. And some of these are, what is EPPD going to do regarding pay and incentives for their officers in order to attract more recruits? So again, when we're talking about recruiting here, he's also asking what the department is doing to crack down on the amount of drunk drivers in the city. Also something that a lot of our viewers are very concerned about.
You know, we come back to recruiting and pay and personnel every time on these questions. The first question of pay and incentive, the city has actually kept up and given us probably one of the greatest or the best contracts I've seen since I've been on the department. Our pay is comparable to cities in Texas the same size. Starting salary for an officer is about around $54,000 a year, which is very comparable to San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, especially when you adjust for cost of living. Those cities are way more expensive than El Paso. So this problem, we're not going to be able to buy our way out of it. And the city has done their portion to increase our pay and incentives. The problem we have is people are just not choosing our profession anymore. So that's really the true problem.
So he also asked if the department is looking to expand, and again, he's saying increase pay incentives with 911 operators to help with employee retention.
Now, I'm not too sure about the fire department is in charge of 911. I'm not too sure on their pay, but of course it's the same as a police officer. You know, you want qualified personnel, and you want to retain them. So pay definitely has to be up there with other jobs in El Paso, especially that job. It's very tough on the dispatchers and the call takers.
Yeah, and he also asked about drunk driving and what you guys are doing to crack down on that. Could you touch on that as well?
You know, we do have the DWI task force, and we do operations, weekly with the DWI task force. Unfortunately, when you start looking at the number of officers compared to those other cities, some of those departments with the same amount of people have double the amount of officers. So, of course, you can see right there that they're able to focus on crimes a little bit more than El Paso because of the number of officers. So everything really ties back to personnel and how effective we are in doing those jobs.
Perfect. And for the last question, let's take a look. Coming from Brandon Gonzalez. Now, this question reads, El Paso Police should start cracking down on road rage incidents. Drivers are becoming way too aggressive over the smallest things lately. Definitely something that we have seen. What could you tell us about that?
Well, drivers in El Paso are aggressive. We do have our partially marked or road rage vehicles. Well, you've seen the Mustangs that are pretty well hidden. Those specifically target aggressive driving, but it really starts with yourself. The only person you can control when you're behind the wheel is yourself. So when you are driving down the road and somebody cuts you off, you need to take it upon yourself not to react. You never know who you're going to be dealing with, and sometimes you have to take the high road and give people space in order for these incidents not to happen. It takes two people to fight. So you can only control yourself, so leave with enough time, pack your patience, as they say, and just be good to one another on the roadway.
And and we've talked about this before, but you said there is no road rage charge per se, but what are some of the charges that people can face if you're involved in any type of altercation?
Some of the charges that stem from road rage can be assault, aggravated assault, murder, just car accidents, intentional car accidents,
Right.
Which are not car accidents, but there will be more categories as like aggravated assault. So the crimes that stem from road rage are very serious, and they're totally preventable.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's very hard to deal with the person that's getting angry. So if you find yourself in that situation, the best thing you can do is just disengage and not pursue it.
Right.
Yeah, Sergeant Gomez, thank you so much for answering those questions. And just like Jessica told you earlier, this is a weekly thing that we're doing with El Paso Police. So they're going to be here every Wednesday. And if you want to recap some of the additional topics that we have talked about over the last few months throughout every Wednesday, you can find those on our website at KFOX TV.com. One of those topics we did mention was heat-related incidents, as we are starting to see triple-digit temperatures rise once again. But speaking of the weather, you can check that out, but let's send things over to Hannah to see if we can expect another triple-digit day.